Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another installment of Out in the Woods. Today, I have a Mississippi queen, um, quite literally. This is Alotta Wood from the good old Gulf Coast of Mississippi. Um, Hello, Alotta. How are you doing today?
Hello, hello. Thank you. Oh, audience, calm down, calm down. It's just little old me.
Oh my God, sir,
Please take
you
a
there?
seat.
You
Please
there?
take a
Please
seat.
take a seat.
Security,
Secure.
security,
Sir, you did not,
security.
did you purchase a VIP ticket, sir? Um, Welcome to Out in the Woods. It's so good to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
Oh my God. Thank you. Here's that 20 bucks I promised you.
Thank you.
So Alana, introduce yourself. Where are you from? What do you do?
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Alotta Wood. I'm 27 years old. I am originally from Big Point, Mississippi. Um, I currently live in Brooklyn, New York, and I am living my life to the fullest.
Oh my God. That, I mean, it's Brooklyn, you know? How can you not?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? How can
right.
you not?
Hmm.
I mean, other than being able to afford to live your life to the fullest, but like that's millennials, you know? That's
Right,
us, you know.
right.
So a lot of when did you know that you were different?
Okay. This one is a very interesting question because I've always known I was different
Okay.
because I've always been weird.
Mm.
I'm just a weird person in general. Even as a kid, because I was raised on like classic cartoons
Hmm.
and I was raised on like really obscure media. Like in particular, there was a animated version of The Cat in the Hat that was a TV special in the 70s. And I distinctly remember us having a VHS tape of that special. And I quote it all the time. Even as a kid, I would quote it all the time, but no one knew what the hell I was talking about. It was just it's like stuff like that. Like even to this day, I will quote things from my childhood. I was raised Southern Baptist, so a lot of people will know what I'm talking about when I say feature films for families. There's a lot of those that I will reference. And people are like, I have no idea what that is. So I've always been weird in that way. Um, and on top of that, I was also a theater kid growing up. I was raised performing in musical theater. So not only was I gay on the inside, but I was also gay on the outside.
Very, very.
Yeah, so I always kind of knew that there was something different about me.
That's excellent, but I feel like as a kid though, especially like, having all of these very obscure points of reference for like media, everyone's talking about Jimmy Neutron and you're over here like, yeah, but this and like everyone's just like
Yeah,
staring
but what
like
about Quick Draw McGraw?
right and they're just like, what? Who? What are you talking
Yep.
about?
Mhm.
Like what about the wacky races?
Right, exactly. What about the Laugh Olympics?
God. But those shows are valid. Okay, but here's the
Yes,
thing. Here's the
they're
thing.
camp. They're
They
very camp.
they are. Oh my God. Well,
Mhm.
fucking Snagglepuss is a gay
I
icon.
know, I know. Ooh, exit stage left even. You know what I mean?
um, so I had originally asked about you being non-binary. I was going to ask you questions about that, but whenever I sent you over the questions and talking points, you kind of indicated that you were on a journey with your gender. So
Yes.
so the question has changed around to where are you on your gender journey?
Okay, yeah. So, as of right now, I am very comfortable identifying as male. But when it comes to my pronouns, I'm very comfortable with any of them, like he, she, or they. And I've always been a person who holds intent very seriously, because it doesn't matter what you call me, it's how you call me.
Mhm.
I will not respond to it. That's something that is just disrespectful. But if someone says she in a very negative way, I won't respond to that either.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's all about intent. It's all about intent. But whenever I'm in drag, I feel like I am in a feminine body. I feel like I'm giving off feminine energy. Um, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. I kind of feel like my femininity is kind of something that I can put on and take off, where my masculinity is something that is just ingrained in me that I can't
Yeah.
get rid of. Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, you know, I kind of feel that I've been having this discussion with folks lately about my own like gender identity and everything. And it's like there are definitely times when I feel like a man, and there are definitely
Right.
times that I feel like a
Mhm.
woman, but I'm not ready to label myself one way or the other. I feel like, it's okay to just go between.
Right. Right. And that's why I kind of describe myself as gender fluid,
Hmm.
because it kind of ebbs and flows. It
Yeah,
just depends on what's going on. But the way I present myself, at least visually, is very masculine.
absolutely, absolutely. And you explained that perfectly. Because I was gonna ask a follow-up, like, could you just explain like your gender identity to like someone who doesn't like really understand gender? But um, have you noticed a difference in your outlook uh slash treatment since moving from Mississippi to New York? So, for instance, you were talking about intent. Are people, I mean,
Right.
I could definitely see people in Mississippi calling you an it, or people in Mississippi using she in a very negative context, but I don't know about Brooklyn. I don't know.
Yeah. I haven't experienced too much of that here. People just kind of don't care.
Mhm.
And it's not that they don't care, it's that they don't care in a way that you be you, I'll be me, and I'll stay out of your business. And that's something I really have enjoyed about New York City. I was just out with a friend on Friday, and they were asking me, because they're also from the South, they were like, what is your favorite thing about New York? And I was like, people minding their business.
Mm,
That's one of my favorite things
mm.
about living here, is that people just kind of focus on what they need to do, and they just
And
they have the blinders on and they just go.
exactly. And maybe this whole thing has more so to do with the lack of things to do in the South, you know,
Yeah,
because
I
like
I, I can under I can see where that is.
at least in
They-
Brooklyn, like there's like so much to do, you
Mhm.
you don't have time to worry about nobody else. But
Right,
down here,
right.
it's church and yard
They
work.
get bored. They get
Yeah,
bored.
yeah.
They get bored, so they gotta hate on other people.
Correct, correct. Um, how has your experience expressed itself in your drag?
Well, like I said earlier, I grew up performing in musical theater, and that's something that's really shaped my performance ability and also my drag as a whole, because it's very over the top. My performances are very performance heavy,
Mhm.
as opposed to just like look heavy. Um, I mean, sometimes I'll turn some looks out, but for the most part, you will be entertained by my performances, because I am someone who can create a character and go full throttle with it, as opposed to just like walking around looking pretty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen you perform a couple of times, and yeah, absolutely. Like very big, very over the top. You're a camp, you have camp on like in the bag.
Thank you.
Um,
But I wouldn't like to label myself a camp queen, because there's so much more to Alotta Wood than just campy fun. I also can like really do a really like beat pageant mug, and I can rock a gown, or I can, do something a little more spooky and kind of give you something more alternative. So I'd like to label myself a chameleon queen, because I can kind of do it all. some things are better than others, but I like to kind of dip my toe in all the waters.
I was gonna say, and I have not, of course, since myself moving from the coast, I haven't seen a lot of your performance. But I also encourage anyone out there listening to follow Alotta on Instagram, because if you do, you will definitely see the different kinds of looks that she can serve, and they are all fucking fantastic.
Well,
Um,
thank you. I
and
appreciate
and
that.
a big thing they have in common, which I guess I'm gonna ask you about now, is the color green. What
Yes,
what
I just love the color green. I have always loved the color green. And I talk about this on my podcast, Just They's Being Thems.
mhm.
Um, the very first episode, there was a point when I was like really starting to accumulate a bunch of green different costume pieces. And this one drunk girl came up to me in a bar one night after a show and was just like, I just have to tell you something. The last few times I've seen you, you've only wore green, and I want to dub you the Queen of Green. And so that's where I have kind of acquired this obsession with the color green. Um, I don't know if this is going to be a visual part, but my water bottle is green. My mouse for my computer is green. My keyboard is green. Like my green screen is green. Um, I just I even have like some little like hair clips here and they're all green. Like I'm
Are your
obsessed with the
earrings
color green.
green?
My earring, yeah, they are in fact green, yeah. My eyes are green.
Your
Um
eyes are green. Your hair is, well, does your hair transition into green? I
it will eventually once all the color fades out of it. But I like to say kind of as a joke, but also not really, that I want to carry on the legacy of the Green Lady of Brooklyn.
Mhm.
If you don't know who she is this older woman who, for like the last 30 years, has just embraced the color green. Like her entire apartment is green, her hair is green, all of her clothes are green, her bathroom's green, and that is what I aspire to be.
Mm.
I want to carry on her legacy, and I do not think there is a shade of green that's ugly at all.
Not a single one.
Not a single one. Not even envy. No.
Ooh. Mm. Mm. Getting deep here out in the woods. Um, but like honestly, like as a queen, you're selling yourself all the time. You are your own product, and
Right.
if an easy way to market is like specifically a signature color, like why the fuck not? Especially
Right.
it, I like
Right.
the color green, so like I'm about it. I'm about it. Like,
I do too. It just reminds me of nature. And growing up, I lived like deep in the boondocks. I lived way back in the woods, so I was always surrounded by green.
hmm
And that's just something that I really, really enjoy.
oh my God, yeah. Walking with children in nature,
Right, exactly,
at all
exactly.
times. So how did you land on the name A Lot of Wood?
Now, a lot of people want to say, oh, that's just a dick joke. You got the easy way out. That's just drag queens being nasty. But the way I came about the name was not nasty. While it is, a pun and an adjective, it came from a very wholesome place.
Mm.
So I have one professional theater credit to my name. And I was in a production of Shrek the Musical, and I played the role of Pinocchio. And it's starting to click now. You know where this is going.
Yeah.
So so for one of the performances, I have my makeup done and I'm just sitting there talking to the actor playing Shrek, and he says, can I tell you something without hurting your feelings? I said, of course. And he said, I just have to tell you that tonight your makeup is really drag. And I said, well, I'm serving you a lot of wood realness. And thus a lot of wood was
Oh
born.
my God. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Uh-huh.
She was born in the swamp. She
Yeah, yes, she
was.
was. Uh-huh.
Oh my God.
That's what
That's
that smell is. That's exactly what that smell
I can
is.
smell it through my computer.
Right,
Wow.
right. You can smell
Um,
it from here. Yeah.
I can. I can. Jesus Christ. Um, oh my God. How
And
about
it's and
that?
it's and it's always felt right too. Like there was a point where I, was going to officially decide on a name, and I had thrown out a couple of ones. There was one that was the childhood nickname that I was like, no, I don't know that I want that out there. But there was another one I had landed on, which was Sprite Remix, that I
No.
ended up, yes, that I ended up not using, and I'm glad I did not use.
God,
But yeah,
that like that, but like at the same time, I don't know. I would love that, but at the same time, I would be like, what kind of cursed
right.
content is she like?
Well,
Like
see, also my drag is very much nostalgic because I love performing things either from my childhood or from my adolescence that really just take people back to a time. And
yeah,
so in my mind, Sprite Remix is like the drink of the
it
early
is. It
2000s.
is, yeah. It really is. Um, so my God, like how about that? Was there
Yeah.
any other names that you were potentially going to land on?
No, no, I did do research before I chose Alotta Wood to see if there was another one out there because I wanted a name that no one else would have. And there's
Yeah,
not another one out there.
which is very
There's not.
surprising. That's
I
very
know.
surprising.
I know. I know. I am very surprised by it. I've thought about like trademarking the name so that if I ever find another one, I'd be like, nope, I own this. You
Right.
cannot have that. You cannot have it.
You can speak to my lawyers if you want this
Right.
name.
Right.
Um, I
Now, if
was
one does pop up, I would probably message them and just be like, hey, just want to let you know that I have had this name for about 7 years now, 8 years now. So please, if you could like think about changing it, I would really appreciate it. But luckily I haven't run into another one.
that's good. The thing is though, have you started your drag family yet? Have you started the House of Wood?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
There are a couple what should I call them? Muses, I guess, that I
Mm-hmm.
have
Mm-hmm.
that I they kind of come to me for advice. Now, I did have a drag daughter, but she kind of left me without telling me. So shout out to Kitty Woods. I hope you're doing good. Um, you
Meanwhile,
can
in the
bleep that if
interior
you want.
illusions,
Right,
meanwhile in the
right.
interior illusions lounge.
And she still hasn't told me, but I know.
Mm,
Um, so shout out to her. She's doing great. I still love her. It's not like I have any ill will towards her. I had just moved away and couldn't really help her like I wanted to or could have. But I do have a daughter who still has not performed yet after all these years.
oh,
And her name is Sophiopath.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
right.
And then I have another, I don't even really know what to call her. I kind of call them like my drag projects. Um, and I have another one in Mobile named Wanda Doomy.
Oh my God.
But I kind of feel like in order to be in the House of Wood, you kind of have to have a pun name because otherwise there's no reason. There's no rhyme or
Absolutely.
reason to it.
Absolutely. That's part of the brand after all, you
Of
know?
course. Now, I do have some, if you guys want to join the House of Wood, I do have some names already picked out for you. There is Morning Wood, um, but like mourning as in like grieving.
Right, right.
There's one I came up with. It's a very regional one, but Yellowwood. But also with my drag, and I've talked about like with my gender journey, sometimes I don't feel like being in that feminine headspace. So I've also created this male drag character for myself who I lovingly refer to as Christopher Robin Thicke.
All right, yeah. All
Because
right.
I love taking things from my childhood and kind of twisting them a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he is very much inspired by Jim Carrey in The Mask. So anytime you see him, only his face will be green.
Holy fucking shit. You're doing green. I mean,
Uh,
once again, it all started I said you're doing green face. It all started, like it all started with Shrek the musical,
right.
and Shrek is famously green.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I
Mhm.
think there's so much synchronicity. You know, the universe
Right.
just meant for this to be all you, Alotta. This is just,
Exactly.
I'm just,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And with Christopher Robin Thicke, even though he is a male character, there are still things about him that are feminine.
Mm,
Like I always wear like my female drag wigs with
mm.
him, but like I'll like turn them way to the side so that it just looks like 80s rocker hair.
Yeah,
I kind of
okay.
find a way to kind of morph it into masculine but still feminine.
And that's the thing. I guess like, do you feel like do you feel like you enjoy the art of drag to give you the opportunity to explore your gender?
Yes, absolutely. Because for so long growing up, I've always been sort of feminine.
Hmm.
And I've always been made fun of that. That's always been a part of me that people make fun of. And so with drag, I kind of get to like express that to its full extent and kind of feel like a part of me is kind of satisfied that
Hmm.
people celebrate me for the thing I was made fun of.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, like you can take it to whatever extreme you feel like you want to
Mm-hmm.
and still be celebrated. I mean,
Right.
that's
Right.
just fantastic. Um, so moving from your drag, where did streaming come into the mix? When did you decide to become a streamer?
Well, I had quite a few friends who were streamers, and this started back in 2020, in the height of the pandemic. Um, I had some friends who were streamers, and I would watch them every once in a while, but then I was like, I want to get into it, but I didn't have the resources to get into it.
Hmm.
So what I decided to do was stream from my PlayStation 4, which is a journey of its own. But I
Yeah.
started this little show, and it was like every Friday for like 6 weeks, and it was called Friends and Fork Knife. Um, and that is what the community, sometimes calls Fortnite. The I don't want to call it an award-winning game because I don't think it's won any awards, but
It's well
it's a
known.
it's well known,
Yeah.
yes. And I enjoyed playing it, and I would interview some of my friends from the LGBT community um, while playing Fortnite. So it's a lot of me asking questions while also screaming because bullets are flying past my head. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right, right.
It was very much that, and it was so ridiculous and so goofy, and it just kind of like fizzled out because I kind of got burnt out by it. um, but also I only had like 25 followers at that point, so
Yeah.
it's not like I was really going to have an audience for it. But one thing I did do with those shows, which I'm thinking about bringing it back to my streaming, is any like what I call cash tips. Any cash tips that I would get, I would at that point donate to either the charity of the interviewee's choice or a particular person, and just be like, here is a cash tip, that we have raised for you, and
That's
use it.
lovely. That's
Yeah,
lovely
I'm thinking
though.
about I'm thinking about bringing it back, um, because we're still out here running around with COVID-19 out in the air.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And
Yes.
people still need help. So I'm really thinking about bringing that back now that I've kind of like built a little bit of an audience.
Well, if you do, let me know, and that will be the moment that I finally download Fortnite and start playing. Um,
Absolutely,
um,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. I don't know why I haven't. I've had so many people being like, "Do you play Fortnite? Do you want to play with me?" And I'm like, "I don't have Fortnite." Like, I'm
It's
sorry.
really,
Like,
honestly, I play it because it is so ridiculous. To me, Fortnite is camp. And you will see me talk about camp a lot when it just comes to my life, because it's campy. It's fun. You can like dress up your character any way you want. And there are like Marvel characters you can dress up as, and DC characters you can dress up as. And like it really is a game for anyone. There's even an Ariana Grande skin.
I was
Like,
also gonna say, like, they also have like, I mean, it's basically like Minecraft and The Sims meets like first person shooter kind of
yeah,
game. And
yeah. But there's also like this like overarching story within
okay,
the game itself. Now, like the game does not have the story within it, but like things that happen on the map kind of coincide with the story that's being told. So like each season is a different part of the story.
Okay. All
And like
right.
these crazy things keep happening, and it's wild.
I
It's truly wild.
that's fantastic. Also, like for anyone out there who doesn't know, um Fortnite, weirdly enough, was the game, was how they announced that Emperor Palpatine had come back in like anticipation of Star Wars Episode 9. Uh they Fortnite got it before everybody else. Fortnite got the transmission that Palpatine sent out before anybody else, before the movie even came out. And
Yeah.
I was a little salty about that, I'm not gonna lie. But I mean, any
But what a great media to put it out in.
absolutely. I
There
mean,
are millions of people that play
I
Fortnite.
was gonna say the target audience is definitely there. You know what I mean? The
Right.
target audience is definitely there.
Yeah.
So
But the audience of Fortnite is ranges so far. Like
right.
it's like to the smallest of children to like the gayest of people. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like it's all over the place.
Is it cross-platform?
It is. It is cross-platform.
I rather is the online aspect of it cross-platform.
Yes, everything is cross-platform on
Oh, that's
Fortnite.
fantastic. My little
Yeah.
nephew plays Fortnite, so I look very much forward to whooping his ass in the near future. Um, all right. So let's talk about just theys being thems.
Yes, my illustrious podcast to 12s of fans. Um,
Same. Same, 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 honey. Same.
so it is I'll go ahead and tell the backstory, and you can hear it in the first episode. We kind of go not necessarily a little more into detail about it, because it's the shortest story ever.
It's literally cut for
So
time.
right, right. So my best friend got married in March of this year, and one of my other friends from college was one of the bridesmaids. And then this other friend who we had just met, like because of the wedding, um, ended up being a last minute alternate brides person. And we were having a this was like after the wedding was over, you know, we were waiting to go to the airport. We were just killing some time. And so we were just sitting on this deck at someone's house, looking at nature, having a conversation. And it was a deep conversation, and it was a meaningful conversation. And after the conversation, we were all like, I feel good. Let's start a podcast. And so we started a podcast. It's me, my friend Nikki, and our other friend Bacon. And I know what you're thinking, Bacon, that's a weird nickname, but that's actually their last name. Um,
Oh,
yes, and they are related to Sir Francis Bacon,
but not Kevin Bacon?
not Kevin Bacon. No,
Okay. I
they are
mean,
always asked that question, and they're always like, no, it's not. It's not. No.
but have you ever heard of Sir Francis Bacon? Like,
Right, right. And funny enough, like their entire family, they're like all brilliant and scientists and doctors and teachers. And so, yeah, so it stayed in the family.
my
Yeah, it
God,
definitely stayed in the family.
that's fantastic. So
Yeah.
I guess what's the MO of just theys being thems?
Okay, so every episode is a completely different topic,
Hmm.
and we just have a conversation about the topic from our perspectives, our individual perspectives, and how they correlate and how they differentiate. But it's like ridiculous topics. Like one episode, we talked about the movie Twilight.
Oh my God.
Um, and like I had never seen Twilight. Growing up, I had never seen Twilight. And Bacon is a huge fan, but with Nikki, she was a hater growing
Mm,
up. So we
mm.
have these three very different perspectives on this topic. So we all watched it, and I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. It was so camp. It was so camp.
I
Um,
only saw it one time. Now that I'm thinking about it, I only saw it one time. It was whenever it first came out, and that was in eighth grade. So naturally, I did enjoy the first book, and it was not until reflection that I was like,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. It's very 2008. I'll tell
it
you
is.
that.
It's
It
very,
is
but you know what?
very.
The
Very
soundtrack.
of its time.
The soundtrack. That's something that is universally agreed upon is every Twilight movie had a fucking banging soundtrack. Absolutely. From start to finish.
Yeah. Yes. But every episode is a completely different topic. And we also have been tackling like difficult topics too. Like we talked about our gender and sexuality journeys. We've talked about grief and death and how we
Hmm.
deal with it, and how that kind of manifests in ourselves. Um, and that was a very emotional topic for me. But it's good to have those conversations so that we normalize those things and those feelings, because not a lot of people talk about grief, especially in the South, because it's very much like, if you cry you're weak, but really if you cry you're strong, because you're showing that you're a human and you're processing your feelings.
Well, yeah, but also in the South, they come up with excuses like, well, they're in heaven now, so like there's no need to
Right,
cry, you should be
right,
happy, stuff like that.
right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, ju- I'm assuming that you are all, you and your co-hosts are all, gender fluid or, not on the gender binary specifically.
Well, Nikki is a cis hetero woman.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yes, but she is very much an ally.
Hmm.
She is very much like in and of the world.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, she's very with it. Because we're all a tight knit group. So I wouldn't keep anyone in my life if I didn't think
Yeah.
they had
Yeah.
good opinions. But yeah, yeah. Bacon is non-binary. um they use they them pronouns,
Hmm.
but I love Bacon so much. They're the coolest person, and they're so smart, it's not even funny. They're so intellectual, which is really great, because when we talk about certain topics, like when we talk about our upbringing, or we talk about grief, or we really talk about anything, they are able to bring a scientific perspective that
Hmm.
not a lot of people really think about, and that's something that I really appreciate. And
Right,
I
absolutely.
bring the comedy or whatever, but we all just bring our individual experiences in life.
Right, absolutely. She's scientific, she's a cishet, or they're scientific, she's a cishet
Yeah.
woman, and I am the
Mhm.
moment.
Right, exactly that. Exactly that. Yes.
So moving forward, um, what is one thing about your life that you wish that you could change?
I've thought about this question a long time. And while I am so grateful for the life I have now, and I love the life I have now, one thing I would change is that I would have come out sooner.
Mm,
Knowing what I know now, I would have come out a lot sooner.
mm,
I would have come out as a teenager, because I didn't come out to myself until I was 19,
mm,
and I didn't come out to my parents until I was 20. So I was dealing with living in the South, being raised Southern Baptist, always hearing, if you're gay, you're going straight to hell.
mm,
So that was something I was dealing with. Um, when I came out to my mom, she said to me, "Didn't you tell me that already?" And I was like, "No, mom,
bitch.
I did not." She was reading me from the jump.
Mm,
And with my dad, he's come a very long way. He's come a
mm,
very long way, in the last 7, 8 years.
mm.
And he was just like, "Are you sure this is what you want for your life? Are you sure? Because it's going to be a very difficult life for you." And I understand where he was coming from with that.
Mm,
And he's
mm,
come a very long way. Like, he loves my husband,
mm.
and they have a good relationship. And that's comforting to me compared to where he was when I first came out.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's very heartening to hear. I feel like hopefully like we're getting to a point in society now where like people, I mean, I hope there just comes a day where people just don't even have to come out. Like they
Right.
just can just do what they want,
And
but
here's what here's what I think. All the old coots need to just get the fuck out. Because once they're gone, we have, Gen X that they're kind of on the fence about things. Then you have, millennials who, we're kind of like the forefront right now, kind
We
of
are.
pushing society in a certain way. And then we have Gen Z who really don't give a fuck,
They really
They're like,
don't.
we don't care who you are. If you're a piece of shit, we're calling you a piece of shit. You
Right,
know what I mean?
absolutely.
They really don't give a fuck. And, I said, I have conversations with my mom a lot about politics, and she's the only person I will talk to about politics,
Hmm.
because she is very much a conservative. And, I
Hmm.
wouldn't necessarily call myself a Democrat. I just call myself a person because
Hmm.
I have certain opinions about certain things,
Hmm.
that line up with, I don't want to say Republicans because that's so gross, but I have some opinions, like, especially when it comes to like Second Amendment rights.
Hmm.
Like, I think everyone should have a gun, but you don't need a military grade weapon.
I was gonna say
It's
we
stuff like that.
queers should
Like,
be able to defend ourselves, point blank, period.
absolutely. But I don't know that an army is going to come busting through your front door that you need, an AR rifle to just take down a wall of people.
Correct,
There's
correct.
no reason. There's absolutely no reason. But now I forgot what I was talking about. That's
Oh,
my ADHD working.
same,
It's
honey.
working. It's
Neurodivergent
working.
squad.
Um, I
Buffering.
don't even remember
Okay,
what was the question. What
so
was the
so
question?
so you were talking you were talking about how like millennials and basically we're just
Oh, yeah,
waiting
yeah,
for
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
older
Okay.
generations to like move on out of
Yeah,
here.
right. Die out. Um, not that there aren't,
Bernie
really cool
Sanders,
Bernie Sanders. Exactly, exactly.
he's the
Um,
only one.
right.
He's literally the only one.
But
But
what I've said to my mom is nothing is going to change in politics until millennials and Gen Z start getting into office and they're old enough to get into office, because they're the ones who will actually cause a ruckus and change the way America is going to start heading. They're the only ones who have the guts to do it,
absolutely. Well,
because
yeah, and we're the only ones that have lived in the America that was built by
yeah,
the older
mhm,
generation. That was, I'm sorry,
that
ruined
right,
by the older generation.
because they told us it was going to work. They told us this is a perfect plan. You can't go wrong. But then once it actually started in motion, we started to learn that is not how the world works, and we need to change it.
Right, because like here I am.
That might have been how it worked in the 50s
Right,
when
exactly.
America was still fresh and new, but not
Right.
anymore.
Back
Not anymore.
whenever we had like all that good post World War II money. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
sure,
Right.
but like
Right.
lots of things have changed since then, and
Yeah.
I mean, look, we this podcast is about you right now, so like we're not going to veer too far off of anything. However, like that also comes socioeconomically with systemic racism.
Yeah.
I think that millennials are really the only people that are knowledgeable and well equipped enough, and Gen Z, to start trying to deconstruct all of these, racist systems
Exactly.
in society,
Exactly.
that are keeping people of color and minorities, all across the spectrum, oppressed and economically down,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Because, like, well, I'm now here we are, hopping on these crazy topics. But when it comes to like welfare and food stamps, it was designed to keep the poor poor.
well, absolutely, but also, I
It was
mean,
designed for them to stay on it,
but
because if you make a certain amount of money, they automatically rip all of it away.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
it's designed to keep people on it so that they don't make a living wage and can't take care of their families without the help of the government.
That, and also, there's just not a living wage. I mean, point
Right.
blank, period.
Right.
There's just not a living wage. So, like, I don't know. It's just,
Here's
yeah.
I was just going to say, here's what a lot of Republicans don't want to hear is that when FDR created the minimum wage, it was supposed to rise and fall with the inflation of prices.
Yes,
It was
absolutely.
that's what it was. It was supposed to be the minimum you can make and still be able to sustain a life.
Right, but then Ronald Reagan came in, deregulated all of the basically all
Yep.
of the flow of money and wealth, and all of the money started going to the top, and none of it really trickled down to the bottom,
Yep.
despite what he wanted to say. Um,
Yep. Yep.
so moving on, because Lord, I could go on forever.
Oh, I could
Um,
too. I could too.
how would you change the South for the better if you could?
Oh, the number one thing would be accountability.
Ooh, okay, let's explore that. Yeah.
Yes, because not only in just the community as a whole, but especially the LGBTQIA2 plus community, there is a lot of the times that people will do bad things and get away with it, and then people forget. So they think they can get away with it again and again and again, so that when people bring it up, they're like, well, it hasn't been a problem before. It's a lot of that. It's a
Hmm.
lot of that because it's people lying, people being racist, people stealing, people being abusive, and they just get a free pass
Yeah. Yeah.
because they're skinny, because they're white, because they're Christian.
Yeah. Because they're
It's
well known, because they're,
mhm.
big
Yep,
names in the community. Uh,
yep,
Yeah, absolutely.
and
And
some not so big names, but we'll keep
I,
it at that.
I was gonna say, but also like I think also that extends to, all communities down here. Just in the community as in like your local township, like like specifically where I'm from, there are streets named after wealthy families that are specifically from my town, and there I could write a Tennessee Williams style novel about like the kinds of like secrets and drama and everything else that
Mm-hmm.
goes on down here that they try to keep swept
Mm-hmm.
under the rug but cannot stay under the rug.
Yep.
But
Yep. And
nobody.
I'm looking at you, Hurley, Mississippi.
Hurley, at Hurley, this is
At
your
Hurley.
calling.
Yep. This is a call out podcast.
But like literally, like if I guess if more people would just make their voices heard and just
Mhm.
go ahead and nip that shit in the bud, we might not have as much resentment, and we might not have as much, I feel like once everything gets out in the open, that's whenever you have the opportunity to actually start
Yeah.
fixing things. And
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in a macro sense, in the South specifically, racism,
Yeah.
because it's out in the open, baby. But
Yeah.
nobody's acknowledging it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean,
I will also say though, something else that I think should change in the South is we actually believe victims.
yes.
And if the abuser has something to say, to really dissect that, or the accused, I should say, and actually dissect how they react to it. Because, while I do believe victims from first jump, I do also like to take in all of the information instead of just he said, she said.
Absolutely. Well, and
You know what I mean?
I still think like there should never necessarily be a scenario where anyone is guilty until proven innocent.
Right.
I still think that it should be the other way around. Um, Even through the most fucked up of situations. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Um,
But just me personally, in some of my experiences, last year I made a big post about one of my abusive exes.
mhm.
And it very much felt like it was just swept under the rug because they made one post about it and said something like, I know some bad things have been said about me, and didn't really acknowledge them to be true or not.
Uh-huh.
Never really, he was just like, there are bad things said about me and people just need to move on.
Mhm.
And that's not something you say to someone who has experienced abuse from a partner. That's not what you say to a victim of domestic abuse. psychological abuse, verbal abuse. That's not what you say to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And
No.
that right there is how you know they were guilty,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because of how they responded to it. Because they didn't even acknowledge anything I said. And
Right.
I would have tagged them. I would have tagged them in the post, but they blocked me. So
Mm. Isn't that the way it always goes, you know?
Mhm. They're
Um,
really, I will say, they're very good at manipulation and lying. And they are involved in the community still.
mm,
Um, and I don't want to say their name on this podcast because that's not my place.
heard that, heard
Let
that.
me just say, though, they've already said their name on this podcast.
The tea, the pot, it's hot, it's steamy.
I listened to that episode too, and I like wrote down all the lies they told. It was great. It was great.
Interesting.
We can
We'll
talk. We can talk off record about that.
yeah, absolutely. Whenever
Yeah.
we're off the episode. But just know, y'all, if you're not already listening to Out in the Woods, you need to, because this is where it's happening. This is this right here. It's, last episode I called out my arts high school well, one teacher in particular, and this season, this is the season of choosing violence. All right. So um so yeah, excellent, excellent, excellent. Alotta,
Yes.
how's your mental health?
Um, all over the place.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
And
valid.
I only say that because I have been diagnosed with ADHD since I was about 11 or 12.
Hmm.
My mother always knew I had ADHD, but hadn't really been diagnosed. And still, it kind of affects me to this day. Um, and some days are really good and some days are not good.
Mm.
When it comes to me being able to focus or me being able to even just listen to a conversation, I have trouble sometimes. And that affects me in different ways. Sometimes that causes me anxiety. Sometimes I overthink. Sometimes, I get depressed. And that all just kind of stems from that ADHD. Um, but
Hyperfixation.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly that. Yeah. And, you know, I have looked into being medicated for it. But the thing that scares me the most is a lot of people that I know who have been on medication for ADHD say that they sometimes feel like a zombie. And
Hmm.
that scares me more than anything because I think one of my redeeming qualities to a lot of my not redeeming qualities is that I have a great personality. And for that to be taken away from me scares me to the core.
Yeah.
So that's why I've kind of just like dealt with it all these years because I'm afraid to not be myself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You don't want to lose that side of yourself, at all. You don't want to risk losing the magic that is you,
Right. Exactly.
um,
Exactly.
even though sometimes it can be so fucking hard to just
Mhm.
be.
Right.
I absolutely understand. Part of the reason that I myself, I also I was diagnosed at a very young age, and I stopped taking medication in my mid-teenage years, which I shouldn't have, but we're going to get into that in the next in one of the upcoming mind book episodes. But like, my biggest hesitation on in getting on medication for ADHD now is I'm just afraid that it's going to increase my symptoms of anxiety and or depression. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
whether it be like the stimulating factor of Adderall, or anything else like that that might have some kind of symptoms that would just
Right.
make my mind race.
Right.
um but that would be something to talk to my doctor about.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Oh, that's something else. You just reminded me when you said, what did you say? Oh God, now I see ADHD. There we
There
go.
we go. There we
There we
go. You
go.
can remember the wacky races from years
Right.
ago.
Thank
That's the
you. Thank
literally,
you.
literally, like,
I
yeah,
can tell you who
absolutely.
won what race.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
but I can't remember literally what you just said 2 seconds ago. Look, and I say this all the time on my my Twitch stream. I'm just like, ladies and gentlemen, you are watching a person fall apart in front of you. You are watching someone have a mental break live on air. Oh my gosh. Okay, I think it was, did you say stimulated?
Yeah,
Stimulate?
a stimulant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also, through some research of my own, I need to actually go to a doctor about this, but I think I may also be autistic because of just of like how sensitive I am to certain things. Like I'm very sensitive to sound, I'm very sensitive to touch. Sometimes I don't even want to talk to people. And
Yeah.
some of those are traits of autism. So, oh, I said that really weird. Autism. Um, so I think I need to talk to a doctor about that. But that's just something I have also been dealing with as far as my mental health is concerned.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, absolutely. And the thing is, I'm sure through your research, you've also found that like ADHD and autism are both on the neurodivergent spectrum. So
Right,
they're like they're not like one and the same, but they're loosely related.
right,
So
right,
therefore, I mean,
right,
it very well could. I mean, you very well could
right,
have
right.
autism.
And I have quite a few friends who are also autistic, and I've talked to them about like their journey and how they got diagnosed and like, and really learned a lot about it and how it is in fact a spectrum. So there are no two cases that are the same.
Yeah.
So that's that's my mental health journey.
Absolutely. Also I thought about this because of the way you said autism. I thought of maybe like a drag name, for somebody out there, I don't know if it's taken, but Audrey Tism. I
I
don't
was
know.
just about to say Audrey Tism.
Oh my God. So there we go. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Or ADHD.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, we have Betty Essam down
Right,
here. Shout
yes.
out to Betty.
Which side note, I'm actually the one that gave Betty her name.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my
Yes, I'm
God.
the one. Yeah, I give her the idea for it. She kind of morphed it into Betty SM. But I originally told her to name herself BDSM, like
Uh-huh.
as in like a bead on a garment.
Right, right.
BDSM.
I was also gonna say, I'm pretty sure there's a character in the new Pokemon game whose name is literally Beedee. So like, I mean,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you know, um, yeah, no. Also, shout out to Betty Essam. If anyone out there from Mississippi is listening, she's actually going to be performing in the City with Pride Pride event next month. Definitely come out and see her because she's a phenomenal bio queen.
Oh, I miss Mississippi Pride. I miss Gulf Coast Pride. That
I
was such a
never I never made it
such a
out
great
to Gulf Coast
experience.
Pride, and I'm
Yeah, I
salty about it.
performed. I performed at the very first one, and I was the only queen of like my generation to perform at it because
Really?
everyone else did not show up. It was me and all of the older queens of the community. Yeah.
Oh my God. And that speaks
Um,
volumes.
yeah, and there was a documentary that was put out not long ago. I'm gonna say it was like a year or two ago, about. I think it was called like "The Little Pride That Could,"
Uh-huh.
and I was actually in the movie,
Okay,
me
bitch.
performing at the Pride. Yeah, I was
Okay,
actually in the
bitch.
movie. Yeah,
Well, everybody out there who's listening will definitely have to look and find it. Do you know if it's
I
streaming
think I
anywhere?
think that's what it's called. Oh, I think that's what it's called.
IMDb right now. Um, so here we go. This is the last question. This is the last question I ask every one of my guests. If you could go back in time and give any words of wisdom or comfort to your childhood self, what would they be?
I would tell myself and never stop being yourself. As much as and I mean growing up, that's what I did, regardless of what people told me, never stopped. There were times I wanted to change so that I could be accepted. But because I was myself, I was accepted by the right people. And never stop being yourself. Never stop standing up for what you think is right, not what your friends think are right, not what other people are telling you is right. Stand up for what you think is right.
Hell
And
yeah.
that's what I would tell myself.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Um, are there any philanthropic shout outs or promos that my audience should know about?
Absolutely. I first want to give a shout out to my drag sister, Zanny X. Give
Yes,
her a shout out.
Annie.
Yes. And if
Yes.
you have her on your list to interview, you definitely should because she is incredible with her drag artistry. She just recently, I think it was this year, she moved to Kansas City, Missouri. And she was born and raised in Biloxi, Mississippi. So I'm going to give a shout out to her. Um, you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Alotta Wood, ALOTTAWOOD. And surprisingly enough, I have that. It's just a lot of wood.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a lot of wood one, a lot of wood underscore. I actually just have a lot of wood on both of those platforms. And Twitch. You can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/a lot of wood. Again, that is ALOTTAWOOD. And Just These Being Thems is my podcast that you can find on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and other places.
Oh my God. Alada, thank you so much for coming out to my show. It's been really lovely talking to you. I mean, honestly, like
Yes, it's been wonderful.
I was gonna say the only experience I ever had talking to you was literally like giving you compliments at the Vo. All right, is it still the Vo now?
Rip, rip.
I was gonna
And that's
say
a conversation we can also have
yes,
off the
baby.
record.
Yes, baby. Okay, well, yes, R.I.P. the Vo. But yeah, no, it's been great having you on. I maybe, in the future we can do some kind of other collabs. I would love to like
Yes,
continue your brain
absolutely.
and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think for my birthday, I want to do what the Twitch community calls a subathon. And
Uh-huh.
any cash donations, I think I will give to a drag performer of my choosing at random. And I think
Absolutely.
I think I might do that. And maybe we can do a collab. Maybe I can
I
have a special guest for each installment.
Installments. I like the
Yes.
sound of
Oh.
installments. All right, honey. Well, you have a lovely day and we will see you again in the near future.
Of course. Thank you so much.